My dear community, welcome to my channel. My name is Wei-Jen and I help people to attract lifestyle and love they desire to have through awareness, self-love, and high energy vibration. Today's topic is about manifesting abundance and love through self-love and high energy vibration. And I like to start this topic with my personal experience and story. So I hope by the end of the story, you will get some insights and wisdom from this story that I'm about to share with you and implement it into your current, circumstance, regardless where you are today. I remember back to around 2019 when we just had a pandemic. I just got graduated from college and we were locked down in San Francisco. So really there wasn't anywhere for me to go out and seek for a job. But fortunately, I got this part-time job to teach Chinese Mandarin language, and I was able to teach at home. And so most of the time I felt very grateful and very appreciated that I could have this job to pay at least a little bit, some parts of my bills. And I took this job. I took this job without knowing what was my goal after this job. Where did I want to go? It was all like the learning process. And so from that journey, I learned a lot through, time to time, month by month. At first, I remember I was very excited about, meeting new students, teaching new students without knowing much. And then, so I gave all my heart and then efforts, attention, affection, and enthusiasm, my energy into this position. And of course, I started to, establish and then build a really good relationship with my students. I also had a wonderful experience of teaching my students. And I learned so much, from each individual of my students as well. They also inspired me a lot, with a different personality and different stories, where they come from, what made them want to be in this session with me. That's also what I was very interested to get to know my student as well. And then eventually my boss, they really liked my performance. And so they started to give me a lot of works that is outside of my teaching zone without, giving me any pay. And even though I kindly made a request that, asking them, hey, can you guys, raise my rate? Because to be honest with you guys, I was making, between $18 to $21 per hour. And that rate was only, I got paid from the teaching hours. So before the preparation, before the teaching session, and after the teaching session, I wasn't making any sense from this job. And I remember I was probably working around, 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday. And then I could only make maybe $80 each day. So as you can imagine, that must not be enough for me to pay my rent and then other bills as well. And then I remember also my body started to give me some signals that, that tells me that, this is something that I started to have some resentment and resistance to the outside of the work that my boss asked me to do. And I was very confused and very having a struggle, having these conflicts. Because I know deep inside my heart and my gut, I didn't really want to do the extra work that is outside of my teaching job for my boss, because A, they're not paying me any cents, and then they're expecting me to do all these, marketing works for them. And then B, I'm not making enough money. And so those two things just started to drain my passion and my energy, to the point where I started to have stomach ache, especially when I was on the phone call with my boss, or I hear from them through an email. They asked me to do a lot of work. I started to have stomach ache, and then eventually I started to have some cells abnormal change in my cervix, which is, scary, very scary to me. And so I started to sort things out with, with my friends, and because I know at that time there was a part of me that I was a people pleaser and I was a caretaker. I wanted to get approval from my boss and from my students. So I ended up, most of the time I would subconsciously put other people's their needs and feelings above me, and my needs, desire, and feelings will be secondary or the last. So at that point, with my health issue, it really pushed me and forced me that I have to start to stand up for myself. And it doesn't have to be me, that is something beautiful that I learned from this experience. I started to clarify with myself, what do I want to learn? What do I want to gain from this experience? And how can I navigate? Because at that time, that part-time job was the only job that I had at that time. And on top of that, I didn't have any extra saving enough for me to quit this job and take some times off and to look for another job. None of that I had at that time. So I took some time to think about what do I want and how I can navigate while I was teaching. I came up with some strategy. One is I realized I had to set up the boundary with myself and with other people as well. And then the second thing that I realized is that I have to set up a goal about, what do I want to gain or what do I want to learn from this experience, whether it's a personal development or professional skills. And so I told myself, okay, this boundary I can set with myself today is that I can tell myself that I'm going to give between 12 months to 15 months to be in this position. This is my timeline boundary. And then once I'm comfortable with this timeline boundary, I can eventually let my boss know this is, how much time that I want to stay in this position. Of course, I'm not going to tell my boss, way early, right? I waited, a month or 2 months before I hit 15 months. So that is a boundary that I set with myself first. And then later on, I told my boss. Now, the second thing, the internal boundary that I set up with myself is that I decided I was going to learn as much as I can from this position in a very personal level and then also in a professional level, meaning that I want to learn how to communicate and then negotiate with other people in a gentle and kind way. Now, the other thing is that I also want to learn how to be a great teacher, teaching my students through really listening to what they have to say, what are the obstacles and challenge they were facing, and how I can help them, and by integrating their learning style, and then to be able to move forward to have some improvement in their language skill. So those are the two things that I decided that I was going to focus on, those two things. And then within this, during this 15 months, and then, just have more experience as much as I can, because after I hit this 15 months of experience, I know there will be some time that I don't get a chance to practice negotiation, communication skills, and I know I probably will have less opportunities to hear people and their needs and their desire to fulfill their needs. And so that is something that I set up the goal for myself. And also during those 15 months, I learned so much about, how to establish my online language studio, because also that's another goal, that is another next step that I want to explore. So I decided that I was going to embrace this fear and this unknowingness, and just to learn, just to, be a little bit messy, and then tell myself I'm still okay and I will be okay. So once I hit that 15 months, I told my boss, I'm gonna quit. Thank you so much for this experience. I so appreciate you giving me this opportunity to be in this position to work for you. And of course, it was very challenging for me to say that and to even say no to my boss, because I remember they were trying to, make some offer to keep me stay, and it was very tempting to me to want to stay, but I had to follow my intuition, my heart, and then also to respect the boundary that I gave myself. So I kindly turned it down. And after that, I literally started my online language studio. By the way, if you're interested in learning how to speak in Chinese Mandarin, feel free to book a session with me, and I will post the link below this video. All right, back to the story. So once I started my own online studio, I have to say I didn't do everything perfectly. I made mistakes here and there. But I also learned a lot. And I remember, because of the decisions and the boundary that I set up for myself, the goal that I set up for myself, I was able to, this journey just led me to another experience where, when I started my own online studio, I met so many wonderful, interesting clients, my students. They all inspired me a lot. And I even had, private, high-profile client that was very generous to me, that I was able to make $200 per hour. And from there, I just, stopped earning $18, $19, $20 per hour for anybody. I really, really started to do the things that for me, that for my happiness, well-being, and for my passion, and then also be able to bring this service to my students that also fulfill their needs and desire. So it's a win-win situation. Now, this is the end of the story. My point of this story is that, when back to that experience, when I wanted to attract the certain lifestyle, the happiness, joy, and love that I desire to have, I learned how to set up the boundary with myself. I learned how to, how to express myself in a kind way. Because I used to think that when I set up the boundary, it has to be either black or white. And today, to me, that is not true. That is in fact, that is a lie to me. I learned that when I say I want this, and if you cannot give it to me, it doesn't have to be, I hate you, and then you're not my friend, or I can't be your friends, anymore. Things like that. You see, that's a black and white thought, but it doesn't have to be in that way. That can be an option. Now, the other option is that, I get to say, okay, you cannot fulfill my needs. I understand and I respect that. But I'm going to remove myself, from this position to a different position where I want to be, and where my standard, my needs could be met. And then I can say it also in a very kind way. So that is a lesson that I learned. Now, the last lesson that I learned from this experience, which is very crucial, is that knowing why am I doing what I'm doing, and what am I doing this for. So back to that story again, I know I was staying there for at least 15 months max, is that I needed to gain some experience and insight, for my personal goal and the professional goal. So therefore, I would, give myself some more patience and gentleness to be in that position during that time, because it's not fun, and I know if my mind and my body, if they don't know why am I doing this in this time, in this position where I don't want to be in this position, right? If they don't know the reason why am I doing this, it's really easy to get confused, and it's very dangerous to have an inner conflict. And that inner conflict can gradually grow over me, that caused me to act out. and which I don't want to have that happen. So really important, knowing why am I doing this and what am I doing this for, right? So I want to keep this, short, simple, and clear. Again, the things that I learned from this experience in order to attract lifestyle, abundance, and love through high energy vibration and then also self-love is to set up the boundary with myself and others, and then also knowing why am I doing this and what am I doing this for, right? I hope you found this, video is very helpful and insightful for you. And I really, really want you to get some inspiration from this video, because I know there are a lot of people out there, they have been through or they are going through a very tough situation currently. And I want to be able to spread out, what I've learned to the world, so the world can be a better environment. And if you really find this video is really helpful and resonate with you, feel free to leave a comment, let me know, or like my video, or even subscribe my channel. I just so appreciate that you spend this much time listening to my story. And if you want to dive deeper into personal transformation, for your abundance, lifestyle, and love, feel free to even book a 30-minute discovery call with me to find out whether or not working with me is a right fit for you. Again, thank you so much for watching my video, and I wish you have a fabulous day.